Hey, Nation, Harry here with a old friend. Let's not go there, Howard, about how long we've known each other. But Howard Cohen, carried the bag for many years and then has emerged as a writer. I've worked with Howard on some writing projects and an analyst and so on, and now lives in warm Phoenix or the Phoenix area. How you doing,
Warm.
Howard?
I'm still trying to recover from that old friend there, Harry.
Hey, I really like the direction you're going with Substack. I'm increasingly seeing that. Uh, I should probably just learn what it is someday, but you've jumped on the AI thing, and in particular, agentic AI. So, what's your story? You're on Substack and you're talking AI, and then let's double click into your latest effort and tell us a little bit about that experience.
Okay, well, I guess it all began at ChannelCon. I attended a couple of sessions, and the speakers who were speaking at that session started talking about AI, and they were inaccurate. They did not talk. They were wrong. They were basically misinforming everybody. I don't think they intended to.
Yeah.
But that was the net effect of it. And then I started speaking to some of the attendees, and I realized that there's like a confusion. Nobody knows exactly what to do with AI. How do I sell it to my customers? It's not a packaged thing. I can't sell a I guess I can sell a subscription to it, but that's not revenue. So, what do I do? And then I said, well, that's a really good opportunity. Everybody and their brother-in-law is writing about AI. Everybody.
Yeah.
And there's just tons of it out there. What could I do that would be different, that would be more valuable and be very focused? And I thought the answer was, let me write for MSPs about what they do with AI, what they can do with AI, and keep on tracking that because, face it, it's changing very quickly all the time, and so you
Daily.
have to
Yeah.
stay on top of it. So that's what gave me the idea for Agentic MSP. We called it Agentic MSP because it's not just the AI that has agency to get things done. The MSP themselves has agency to get things done using AI as a tool in many ways. So I'm now basically tracking what all the major players, all the frontier model makers and the tool makers, even the chip makers, I'm tracking what they're doing, and I'm digging out what of that is relevant to an MSP audience, and that's what I'm reporting.
Yeah. Yeah. And boy, you hit the nail on the head with a couple of things. Now, let me come at a different angle. And I really like the fact you're early because down here in the South, I board my audience multi-generational texting on paper. Mom always said, or I said to mom, I'd rather be early to dinner than late. Um, and sometimes early, you can get hurt, right? I did with when they rebranded BPAWS, which sounded like a
Oh God,
sexually
talk
trimmed
about old. Yeah.
name, and then they called it 365. But we we didn't entirely know what we were doing, right? And then it was the same with Small Business Server in 97, 98. What is it? And I like that. But again, you can get hurt if you're too early, and so that's a whole nother podcast about strategy and you
Sure.
know who waits and
But
that.
I think you have to accept that. You have to accept that some of what you're doing is not going to last. There was a conversation just the other day about people who started building their models in 2022, and a lot of the things they used and incorporated just went away. They just didn't end up being the way everything went, and now they're basically having to reinvent. But at the same time, they're the first movers and they do have the first mover advantage. So I think you have to steel yourself to the idea that some of what you're doing will eventually be wasted, but it will all deliver you to where you need to be to get done what you need to do.
Yeah, I concur. I track Nvidia down in San Jose, and Nvidia was early, and they hit, but like anything, it's going to be interesting to see how they transform because now they have competition, right?
Hmm.
And it's coming. And that's just the way the game is played, right? I mean, I get it. And I've even been there. um, but it'll be interesting to see how they transform. They certainly have a good credit rating. They could get a hell of a line of credit to make acquisitions and so on. To be continued, but they were arguably there first on the chip side, and then they are branching out. My latest double click into it is they are cognizant and aware of the services side, right? They're not immune to that. Versus Howard, let me throw this out. I've been frustrated for years at Intel. You and I know some good people that work there.
Oh, yeah.
Most of them are gone and moved on, or Intel left them, a little bit of both, and frustrated as hell because they were just south of me in my Seattle days down in Portland, right? I mean, it was a lovely trip, and now they're finally raising their hand. I mean, this is within I'm going to stretch and say within the last month. They're raising their hand. Again, we can have a whole nother podcast about U.S. government direct investment in a private entity.
Oh, yeah. Well,
yeah,
don't get me started.
Yeah, I know. That's next podcast, but
And by the way, I live about 17 miles south of an enormous Intel plant that was built, actually was in the midst of being built when I first moved here, and we watched it get built, and now it's fundamentally empty. I mean, there's so far fewer people in that facility, but the facility, it looks like a small city unto itself.
Yeah. Welcome to the real world. But so probably need to wrap up. Give me some insights on where you're headed, and hey, be sure to drop me a note what your URL is, and I'll put it in the blog. Go ahead and say your URL.
I can make that even easier for you, Harry. It's a simple URL. It's AgenticMSP.blog. It's as simple as it gets. But I'll send it to you as well. I guess the one thing I'd want to say finishing up this conversation is that everything we just talked about Intel and Nvidia is really exactly the stuff I'm not talking about in Agentic MSP.
Okay.
Because it doesn't directly impact what MSPs will do with AI. It's interesting and it's important to know. I mean, I think the most important thing to know is that NVIDIA is creating partnerships with everybody on the software side, the hardware side, services side, everywhere. That's important to know. But I'm going to be covering, I'll give you an example. The next post I'm going to do has to do with pricing. Now, it sounds odd, right? Pricing. What do you mean pricing? Well, think about it. We're in an industry that basically prices based on how many hours a technician puts into doing something.
I'd love it. Yeah, then they do some math and
I'd love to say it's otherwise, but it's not. And everybody translates it into hours, and they make terrible mistakes. Like if they can reduce the number of hours, they reduce the rate too. Which I mean, you don't have to do that, but they do. In the future, we're going to be using AI to do things for those technicians, meaning the technicians will have to spend fewer hours doing what they do. And if you're pricing on hours, AI will successfully cut your prices. That's not what somebody wants, and so, there's three ways to price. There's pricing based on cost, there's pricing based on competition, and there's pricing based on value. And I'm going to be emphasizing that because We've always emphasized it. We've always tried to get MSPs to price based on value. Now they're going to have to. They really just don't have a choice anymore.
Yeah, and maybe I'll get the final word this time, and then we'll get you back. Let's let's do a monthly podcast. Yeah, I'll get on your schedule. But I just had a talk last week. In fact, I was at the Microsoft Austin lunch, the IAMCP, the Channel Partner Trade Group.
It was a big part of it for a long time.
Yeah, no, I got a free lunch. I mean, literally, there's no such thing, but there is. And when that finished, I talked to a publishing partner over in Telcom, and they don't have Howard or Harry, right? You and I are personal brands, and they're just they don't have a personal brand front person, right? They're sort of traditional media, if you will, just doing it and host and post. And I'm talking about trying to do stuff with them in 2026. And to your point about value and so on, I said, well, I have a personal brand. I mean, I got a price higher. Instead of a $5,000 package, we need to have the confidence. It's $10,000, right? I mean, we're delivering. Does that make sense? That don't just lowball it when you have someone with a personal brand right there engaged and so on. I'll tell you, you and I before we got on the air, we talked about our adoration for analyst Jay McBain, the good stuff he's doing. Well, there's a personal brand. That price
has brought great value to his brand. Absolutely.
Yeah, and the price just went up, right? To
yeah. Well, I want my brand to represent actionable insight, because I've always believed that a good writer, when somebody finishes reading something they've written, they go off and they do something that they wouldn't have done otherwise.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about to me. If I can help them get better at something, do something in a better way, and make their business better based on it, that's everything. And I think we both do that. So I look forward to, you mentioned several things that we could do a whole podcast on. So I will look forward to doing those.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Howard.
Thank you, Harry.